Being able to animate a run is one of those fundamental skills of being an animator. Run cycles can be very simple, and they can be also very complex and inspired. You should always be exploring different ways to animate simple things by looking for new ways to interpret timing, spacing, and character acting. Today, let's take a closer look at the humble run cycle, and I'll show you all the different ways that you can animate a run. When I do pre-production on my animation, having a way to organize my thoughts and notes in a visual way really helps me in my creative process. And that is why I'm excited to use Milanote, today's sponsor. Milanote is an easy-to-use tool that can be used to organize ideas and inspiration, to take notes and collect research, and to organize your projects visually. For today's project, I used Milanote to plan this video and to help organize my references and notes. I organized the planning of this project into various elements, including a brief and a checklist, and then I have my character and prop designs in their own subboards, and I added various images and notes, combining them in Milanote to organize them. This way I am able to keep my ideas clear and succinct. I also have some of the video references that I shot with my friend Riri-chan in a subboard as well, along with my notes and thoughts. I also did a quick animation test before filming, just to test my ideas and to get a grasp of everything. For animators and other visual artists, whether it's planning out your project or making a large mood board with all your designs and references, using Milanote to help organize your creative process can be tremendously useful. For group projects, you can invite your team to gather important feedback and collaborate with them in real time by simply sharing the link to your boards or inviting your editors via email. Milanote makes starting new projects easy, with hundreds of built-in templates to help you get started for every type of creative project. Milanote is also available on mobile, so you can use it directly from your phone. Milanote is available for free with no time limit, so sign up for a free Milanote account using the link in the description. Get started today! First, let's take a look at the normal standard run. So this is how most people will generally run. There are 4 main poses, and I think you should try and commit these to memory. Here we have the contact pose, where one of the legs start to contact the ground. Here, the heel of that leg should barely be touching the ground, and the arms should be fairly far apart as well. The other leg should be up in the air. Then comes the down position pose, and here that leg that touched the ground should be moving rearwards while the airborne leg moves forwards. The character also crouches slightly and her body should be in the lowest part of the run cycle. Here, the arms should also be relatively centered. Next is the up or push pose, and this is where the character is pushing off that grounded leg while the airborne leg also lifts up. Here, the character is in the highest point of that run. Well, sort of. We'll get back to that. The arms will continue their movement here as well. After that is the airborne pose. Here, the character has both feet off the ground and she is in the air. The distance between both her legs and her arms should be at the furthest here. And here I have her slightly lower than the up pose. Usually, this is the pose that has the strongest silhouette. Then we just repeat these poses for the other leg. The contact, down, up, and airborne pose. While the arm and leg movements are reversed, the silhouette is the same, so you can make use of techniques such as the onion skin to help make these drawings faster. The standard timing for a run like this is to put everything on 2s, meaning we expose each drawing for 2 frames, giving us a run that is 8 frames a step for a cycle that is 16 frames in total. And once we have our basic shape down, we can use the basic drawing we made and add the details to our character. We can then play it back. It's a very standard run and it works. Next is a common variant on the standard run. Let me duplicate our animation folder and show you. So I know a lot of animators want the airborne pose to be also the up pose instead of the push pose. And we can shift the 2 airborne poses up a bit so that it is higher than the push pose and play it back. And I still think it works very well. And if we actually check our video reference, we can see that people do run with the airborne pose being the highest point of that run. So feel free to use this as your standard run if you prefer. In the previous 2 runs, for the contact pose, I had the leg contacting the ground at a slight bend. This is more realistic as this is how people generally run. But there is another variation where we draw that leg straight. and this gives that pose a stronger silhouette. Playing it back, it works well, and it's really up to you how realistic or cartoony you want that run to feel. A simple way to slow down the run is to put everything on freeze, making this a run that is 12 frames per step. This is actually much closer to a realistic, relaxed run speed. And this is a good timing to use when your character isn't in a rush or just jogging in general. In Japanese anime, the standard run consists of what we had for the previous run where we put everything on freeze, but with the airborne pose taken out. This leaves us with something that is 9 frames per step, so slightly slower than the standard animation run. I like the speed as I always thought 8 frames per step was a bit fast for someone who is running without urgency. Animating it on freeze also gives the eye more time to read each drawing, and if the drawing has drawn silhouette and posing, it can really add to the overall feel of the animation. In Japanese anime, if you want a fast run closer to a sprint, you can just take everything we had in the previous run and retime everything to be on 2s. This is a much faster run and it also feels a bit more exaggerated as well. Going back to our original run for a second, I also seen this variation sometimes. Usually with the arms, they swing out the widest at the airborne position, but there is a variant where you have the arms widest at the contact pose instead. And the drawing in this way gives the contact pose more punch as it can improve its silhouette. Really, which variant you want to use is up to you, and I think they both feel pretty good. For a slower run that is on 2s and also around 12 frames per step, we need to add 2 additional drawings. One between the down and push pose, and one between the airborne up and the contact pose. So let's draw that in. Playing that back, this timing and spacing really slows down the animation and gives me a bit of a classic Disney feel back when they used a lot of human reference and rotoscope to refine their movement. This run is definitely leaning on the more realistic side of things. Here is a variation of the previous run, but with the extra drawing on the airborne pose removed to reduce the airtime, putting it at 10 frames a step. I think this run feels a lot more modern and snappier. Now doing the exact opposite of the last run, here I remove the extra drawing where she has her feet on the ground and make her feel super floaty by having 3 airborne drawings. And we do this by making the contact pose airborne as well. I think something like this can work really well for a design that is more cartoony, where the character's movement is much more floaty. Now this run is even more exaggerated than the last one. Here the push pose is also floating and off the ground. Does this make sense? Not really, but it can work really well for those small chibi characters where you need a really cartoony run. Going back to our original 8 frame per step run, we can change how the run feels by simply readjusting the arm. Here in Japan at least, there is generally a run that is considered more feminine where the arms swing left and right instead of just swaying up and down. It's a very popular way to animate runs on small children and girls. The rest of the dynamics are the same, so we can just redraw the arms to fit that motion. When animating an arm, it's also a good idea to add some delay, so in general you would have the elbow move first and then the rest of the forearm will kind of trail behind that elbow movement. Here is a variant of that same run where we time everything on series instead and remove the airborne drawing. You see this variant most commonly on Japanese TV anime. It has all the advantages and disadvantages of the run number 5 that we put on series. And again, the silhouette reads much clearer when the drawing is on series, but it also does look less smooth. I think rearranging the arms is a great way to add character to a run. For example, we can have our character hold a little bag with her left arm while her right arm remains unchanged. This gives the animation a bit more nuance and also helps with character acting. Note that the arm holding the bag still moves left and right as she runs, albeit not as much when those arms are free. To animate this, we can reuse most of the original animation and just make the necessary changes. I think this is really cute, and the use of a prop can really add to a piece of animation. And here is a variation of that previous run, again on Sri's with the airborne pose removed. You actually find this run a lot in anime because it is just slightly easier to draw. Now let's try drawing a run that is both fast and with the pose really pushed. Here we'll have the character's contact pose with her body tilted well forward, and I'll have her legs also pushed really far apart as well. The down pose will still have her body well forward, but other than that, it's a rather standard run and we can just match the poses to our standard run pose. The push pose is the same, just with her whole body angled, so she is actually pushing forward more instead of pushing up. This gives the pose a really strong sense of power in those legs. For the airborne pose, I also really want to push this and have her legs well far apart just to show off that power. Then we do the same for the other leg. I actually want to animate this on once, and I would like another drawing between the contact and down pose and the down and push pose as well. We can treat these drawings almost like an in-between. Because her legs move such a large distance, this is necessary to help the eye bridge that movement. And there we have it, a really intense, fast run at 6 frames a step. Something like this is great to use for scenes of high emotion and when you just really want to push your animation. We can also make this run on 2s, and if we do so, it almost has a gag feeling to the movement. This makes the run 12 frames a step, which is pretty much a standard run speed, a bit on the slower side. I can definitely see this working on a show or a scene that is not as serious. Okay, next let's really push this, almost into Tex Avery Bugs Bunny level of cartoony. Taking run number 16 that we had just animated and removing the 2 in-betweens that we drew between the contact and down pose and the down and push pose, we have a run at 4 frames a step. This looks pretty crazy, and I think it will really only work on shows that is equally as crazy, again like those old Tex Avery cartoons. Do you guys remember that scene from the 2004 movie Mind Game where all the characters were running like crazy? To get that, we just removed that airborne pose from the previous run, putting the run at 3 frames per step. Then we just have to make some modifications so that our character's up and down movement isn't too much. Her height in all the poses should be relatively consistent. And playing it back, this is pretty nuts. Outside of something like Mind Game, it might be hard to use a run like this, but whenever you need something that is just super crazy, you can use this. Taking these same drawings and spacing them out on 2s, we can sort of get the Naruto run. We just need to get those arms straight back. My animation has some slight up and down movements on our character's body, but you can essentially get away with just retracing that body and just moving the legs and hair. This run's pretty cool, I guess, but it's kind of hard to use outside of a very specific anime, Naruto, pretty much. Here is also a faster alternative version of that Naruto run where we have everything on ones. Here we need an extra drawing between the down and push pose so that the legs read much more smoothly. We also have to adjust the down pose a bit so that the spacing of the legs work properly. And there you go, we have a bona fide ninja run. This feels much more dynamic and powerful than that previous run. Next, let's push our run even more. So despite being an animator in Japan, I still really love old school Tex Avery stuff. Taking run number 18, we can erase the legs and create something called the Wheel of Legs, like those old Roadrunner cartoons. I think I used this once for something that was super stylized and cartoony, and if you have the opportunity to make this work, go for it. Here is another alternative for animating fast runs. By using our original drawing as reference and taking out that airborne drawing, we can really push that torso by drawing it almost at a 90-degree angle to the legs. This run is also pretty gnarly, but I have seen it used in more stylized anime such as that relatively new Devilman Crybaby. Okay, now let's try to push the run in the opposite direction, creating something much more subdued, slower paced, and natural. Taking the original run as reference, I really want to pull back on the animation. So I want to have the distance that her legs move reduced, as well as reducing the height of that airborne drawing. I also want to dial back the left and right shoulder and torso movement, as well as reducing the amount that the arms swing back and forth. She is pretty much doing a light jog here, and we have to make these changes for the rest of the drawings as well. And playing it back, I think it's a lot more nuanced and realistic as well. This run to me looks like a light jog, and I can definitely see a character running like this for exercise or just as a light casual run. As a variant, we can also put the run on streets as well, making it 12 frames a step. It's pretty slow, almost unrealistically so, but something like this can still work when the character is in no hurry. This feels very, very relaxed. I'm going to draw one more run, showing that you can really combine any character acting into the run to get a totally unique and interesting run cycle. For example, if we want our character to be running totally out of gas, we can keep those main running poses and just modify them so that maybe her back is more hunched, her legs are also more bent, her arms swing uncoordinately, and since she's pretty gassed, a slow run on streets with 12 frames a step could work well here. And something like this just shows you all the ways you can approach animating a run that is not just the standard cookie cutter version. When you're animating, you should really try and get into the head of your character, understand what they're thinking, and draw that into your animation. And that's how you get a good animation into something that is great. So I actually had 26 versions of a run cycle here, and I'm working towards 100. There are countless ways that you can animate a run. Try combining a run with character acting, go shoot some references yourself or with your friends, and try animating a totally unique run by yourself. I think finding interesting ways to animate mundane actions is one of the most rewarding parts of being an animator. Anyways, I hope you guys found this useful. Thank you to everyone for watching, especially the Patreon and YouTube members. Your support is greatly appreciated and helps keep this channel running. You can help out the channel at the link below, and members get extra content every month. Other than that, check out my socials, and I'll see you when I see you.